You've pretty much heard it all by now, right? This coating lasts 5 years, maybe 10 plus years. Stack this coating with that coating, and you're going to get 8 years. But here's the truth, and I think we're all getting to the place where we understand this. That's marketing. Most ceramic coatings won't make it half the amount of time that they claim to. A lot of coatings fail within a year, and it's really not because they're necessarily bad, but it's because we've been fed a ton of bro science, half-truths about how coatings really work, how any particular brand's coating really does work. And so in this episode, in this podcast, in this video, what I want to talk about is the lie about 5-year coatings, 10-year coatings, why even stacking coatings doesn't really add years. It's just more bro science. And what no one tells you about ceramic coating maintenance. And so, I think at its core, a ceramic coating is just a tool. It's a tool in our toolbox. It is not a one-size-fits-all, and it's something that detailers got really excited about because there was a lot of money in it for the first time really ever in the detailing space. I remember back to doing a podcast with Jason Rose from McGuire's and him talking about kind of the holy grail of detailing was being able to get $1,000 for a detail. And that was really difficult to get to that number before ceramic coatings. And then with the advent of ceramic coatings, that number actually felt small, and people got ridiculed for only charging $1,000 for ceramic coatings. And people would say things like, well, maybe you didn't put enough layers on. Maybe you're with the wrong company. Maybe you need to be certified, and all this other marketing BS that as time goes on, we are realizing is BS. But for a long time, hitting that $1,000 goal, that $1,000 detail was a big, big deal. I remember even hearing it live in person from Jason being like, whoa, how did you even get to that number? And now with coatings, it's like, you're only charging $1,000. So kind of like I like to do before we get into it too deep, we need to set the tone for, what ceramic coatings actually are. And I think at its core, a ceramic coating is just it's very simple. It's a thin protective layer that bonds directly to your paint to make it more resistant to stuff like UV rays, fallout. Some coatings have characteristics that repel soap. They prevent grime from sticking to the surface. But contrary to what the marketing for ceramic coatings were when they first started coming out, they are not bulletproof. It's not invisible armor, right? It's just a harder, slicker surface that makes your life easier to take care of it. I mean, that's really what it is. It's a wax on steroids, right? An invisible, slicker, harder surface that is protecting the substrate underneath. That's all it is in its most basic form. And this is exactly where the bro science starts to come in very quickly, because in the beginning, even currently, a lot of guys or brands out there will tell you that it's like putting, glass on top of your paint, right? They'd even have a bottle of seemingly broken glass or quartz or whatever in a bottle showing this is the hardness of what's going on in your paint, which for me was always weird of like, well, glass is actually kind of fragile. It's hard, but it is also fragile, and it's also not pliable at all. So putting a non-pliable thing onto a pliable surface or something that moves a lot, expands and contracts, actually doesn't seem like a great idea. But again, bro science doesn't really make sense. Bro science just tells you, if you put a 5 and a 3, that makes 8, and so you'll have 8 years of protection on your car. Again, bro science, right? So coatings are not a chunk of glass that you put on your car. It's a microscopic film. It's tough. It's really durable, but it's not magic, right? So I think we need to set that as kind of a baseline of like, again, it's a hard, slick surface that makes your life easier, right? When you take care of it. It's about making your life easier to take care of it. It's not magic. It's just tough, okay? So, and again, let's be honest, like these 5-year, 10-year coating claims, they sound amazing. And that's why brands use them, because they sound amazing and they sound like a different, something different than brand XYZ, right? Oh, well, if so-and-so says theirs is only 5 years, and I'm going to say mine's 8 years, right? And I'm going to say mine's 10 years. And we saw every brand, which is so common for our industry, of like every brand just watches what other brands do and then they copy it. We're seeing it right now with version 2, version 3, version 4, version 8, version 10. It's like, why is everyone creating new versions of the same thing? And then people get pissed off because they're like, well, I just bought version 2. Why didn't you tell me you were going to release version 3, right? So I have a different perspective on versions and new releases and stuff like that I do differently with my own brand. But what's common in the detailing space is for people to just copy what's out there, what other brands are doing, and then kind of regurgitate it in their own language. We see that all the time with mobile detailing companies, and we see that very often with product brands. So Plus is a one that people started using at SEMA a couple years ago. Well, this is GX5 Plus or whatever their coding is called, and they add a plus to it, or it's our version 3. Instead of just telling people, hey, we had to go, we don't have anything else to innovate on, so we just called it a different version and dyed it green or something. So these claims sound amazing, but honestly, they're usually based on lab test. If at best, they're based on lab test. At worst, they're completely made up. Somewhere in the middle is that they are being fed that information from a sales rep from the blending factory, that's what I did for a very long time. So the sales rep at the blending facility gets the information from the chemist and then may or may not tweak that. I've seen it both ways, tweak that information and then sell that to the brand, who then sells it to you, the end consumer. So most of the time, at best, these lab tests are on a small panel that never sees the sun. No one's ever washing it. And then when a brand tries to, replicate real world things, they take it through a car wash, 100 times in a row, or they wash one single panel 500 times in a row, or they do a torture test, right? And so again, to test real world circumstances is incredibly difficult, and everyone's real world is different. And so that's how all these different testing protocols came to be, is trying to replicate what people may face in the real world. But realistically, real world durability is probably more around like 2, 3 to 5 years tops. Longer, obviously, with maintenance. But when we talk about this years claim, it's just marketing math. They test how long it still exists. And also, this kind of is the gray area thing. The tests are how long the coating will still exist, not how long the coating actually protects well, which I think is a big disconnect. So a lot of brands obviously require that like yearly maintenance to keep the warranty, quote unquote, warranty active. They won't necessarily talk about that. But the big thing that they really don't talk about is that they will test, and this is actually something that I agreed with Cerakote on when I met with their CEO and saw their testing protocol, is that brands will tell you, hey, it lasts 5 years, because technically somewhere on that panel, the coating will be existing for that long, but it doesn't actually protect that whole time. So let's break it down to like something simple we may be familiar with, right? Like everyone will go to McDonald's, and not everyone, but people go to McDonald's and then they see how long it takes for the Big Mac to deteriorate or the Happy Meal to deteriorate, right? So, 10 years later, the Big Mac still looks exactly the same as it did, right? So yes, technically the Big Mac did last 8 years or 5 years or 6, whatever it is, right? I think there's a few YouTube channels that do like yearly updates on this kind of stuff. But you can leave a Big Mac out on the counter for 10 years and it'll look the same. but it doesn't mean it's still good. Doesn't mean it's still edible, right? So could a coating technically last 10 years? Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's still good on the car. I think another big area that we saw people or in brands trying to differentiate themselves is in this layering and stacking. And I personally have never been a big fan of it because when I did it in practice, it just didn't seem like it was working. And then when I did it on my own cars, it didn't seem like there was any added benefit to it. So I see a lot of people talking about, stacking a 3-year coating on top of a 5-year coating, stacking, 2 5-year coatings to make a 10-year. And it sounds smart. And it sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Like, oh yeah, 3 + 5 is 8 and 5 + 5 is 10, right? But in reality, and I am not a chemist. I work with the chemist. I've worked in the blending houses. I am one of those sales guys that passes on the information on coatings. And in reality, coatings don't work this way. But because it's bro science and it seems we can all agree that 5 + 3 = 8. So we just think that makes sense and science works like that, but it actually doesn't. Because once a coating cures, it becomes slick. And so nothing really wants to stick to it, including another coating or another layer. So when you try to layer on top, the new one isn't bonding in the same way that the original layer is bonding. So you're not really getting an 8-year or a 10-year stack. You're getting that 5-year coating, that 3-year coating, whatever, that 12-month coating, and then you're putting a topper on it right away. The problem is that the topper that you're putting on it right away is actually taking a lot more work than just a spray would take. So if we think about like a Teflon pan, right? If you try to stick tape onto a Teflon pan, it doesn't really work like that, right? And actually, we saw this example with Tom when we would show that it was like the tape test, I think we called it. If you use a polish that has a lot of oil in it, that is why you can't ceramic coat over a lot of those polishes, because they have a lot of oils in them and like the tape doesn't stick, right? It's not a bare surface. And so the same thing is true. If you think about it and you extend the thought out just a couple thoughts, which is something that I like to do often, is like if you put down a super premium coating that is going to resist a lot of things, how is that coating going to receive the top layer? Doesn't make sense. We're starting to see now a lot of the marketing claims kind of revert. Again, brands trying to be different and saying, oh, it's a single layer coating system. Well, yeah, every coating is a single layer coating because nothing wants to stick to the top of it, right? And so you can maintain the coating, you can put toppers on the coating, but if you're going to do that, why are you going to do it with another wipe-on coating? That just takes so much more time to do that, right? Some brands, and we're starting to see this, single layer coating systems are becoming, quote unquote, again, new technology, but it's not new technology. It's just what should have always been done, right? And so, again, to reiterate, like, coatings are not maintenance free. So I think this is where a lot of shops, a lot of detailers got themselves in trouble, is like selling the idea. I remember in the early days of coatings, and a lot of detailers got in trouble because they wanted to sell a high price point. So they'd sell a $2,000 coating, a $2,500 coating to someone. I made the same mistake, to be honest with you, in the early days. Sold an $800 coating, and then I lost all the maintenance work because I sold a one-time $800 ticket, because that's how a lot of detailers were selling to the customers. Instead of selling on other attributes of the coating, they sold it on, you're not going to have to do any maintenance. You're just going to have to wash your car. And I remember when I did this, I went, oh my gosh, I was selling, a $65 wash and wax service twice a month to this guy. Now I just sold him on an $800 coating, and I lost the $130 a month. That sucks, right? Made that mistake. So we're coming back around to the place of realizing that coatings are not maintenance free. If you never wash your car, your coating is toast. coatings make cleaning easier, but not unnecessary. And that's where a lot of brands messed up, a lot of detailers messed up, is they said you do not have to do any maintenance if you do this. But that's not true. Coatings make life easier, but not unnecessary. And there's no place that this started showing up more evidently than in water spots. So people started dealing with tons and tons and tons of water spots on their ceramic coating and then being pissed because they thought, hey, I thought I wasn't going to have to do anything. Now I'm getting water spots. What is this? Because the truth is that water spots can etch the coating itself. So you're just ruining the coating instead of your paint, which is a better trade-off. Same with bird poop. It can etch through the coating, but not the clear coat. That's a good trade-off. But again, it makes cleaning easier, not unnecessary. So another big myth that was with coatings and still is like they don't stop scratches or rock chips. So they help a little bit with minor micro marring or anything like that, but you're still going to get rock chips. You're still going to get car wash scratches, and you're still going to get swirls if you don't properly maintain the car. I remember I got called out on a warranty claim in the early days of Ceramic Pro on an Aston Martin, where the guy was, the customer was very pissed. He paid for a lifetime coating, whatever, and he wanted to file a warranty claim because he started to see spider webbing in the paint, and he was sold wrong on it, and he was pissed. Paid $2,700 for a lifetime warranty on a coating that was oversold to him, and he started having, regular wash marring, right? And he thought, what the hell? I just paid $2,700 for this. 6 months later, it's already failing, and Ceramic Pro didn't want to warranty it at the time, and the installer didn't want to warranty it. It was quite a mess. But again, these things are going to happen because it makes your life easier, but not unnecessary. So another big lie and a big myth that is finally going away, but was prevalent for a very long time, is this installer certification. So because what people are realizing is that installer certification doesn't guarantee quality, right? So both installers are realizing this, and then brands are realizing this too, of like, why are we giving territories? Because for me, in my reality, no customer cares about what brand coating I'm actually using. No one cares. So if I have a territory of a 10-mile radius to install Jimbo ceramic coating, but I could just install another coating, I'll just install another coating. My customer doesn't care. I'm just, there's no brand, there's no ceramic coating brand that dominates this, this industry enough to be getting customers knocking down your door, wanting a certain brand of coating. Even if they could be, kind of directed into another direction, right? It's kind of like if you think about window tint. It's like most people don't care. There's no brand of window tint that is like, I gotta have the Expel window tint on my car or whatever. And even if you think that, you could, if you're not well versed in window tint, you could probably be skewed another way. Honestly, I don't even know if Expel has window tint. That was just the name I thought of it. So this certification idea was total garbage that people were sold on, paying to be certified and getting a piece of paper. It's crazy. So just like on that Aston Martin, I've honestly seen coatings fail, not because necessarily the product was bad, but because that customer was fed a lie that simply wasn't true. Right? They had the local lot boy wash the car and he marred it up. Why? Because coatings aren't bulletproof, right? They make cleaning easier, but not totally bulletproof. So I think to do it right, whether you're a DIYer or you're a professional detailer, I think these are kind of the rules that I stand by. Is I pick one good coating. So stick to a reputable brand, something that has clear, instructions, clear expectations, and that the coating is easy to install. That's why when I was developing the Gloss Boss, I focused on a single layer system, if you want to use that kind of marketing verbiage, but I focused on a coating that was extremely user friendly. The Gloss Boss is a professional grade coating. My chemist makes 2 grades of coating. One is a consumer grade, which just has less solids in it. That's the only difference. The professional grade has more solids in it, and the chemistry is a little bit different because of that reasoning. But I use the professional grade, which is incredibly easy to install. I have customers that have never, ever installed a ceramic coating before, ever in their life, installing it with 0 issues, which is how I think a ceramic coating should be. Because whether you're a DIYer who has never installed a ceramic coating before, or you're a professional who has installed dozens of coatings, at the end of the day, they both want the same thing: something that goes on slick, smooth, and easy without any issues. You don't want a high spot, which is just coating residue basically left over, and then you can't level that high spot. You can't get rid of that high spot. No one wants that, right? So I pick a good coating. It's a reputable brand, my brand, with clear instructions. Every bottle comes with clear instructions. You're not buying a bottle and getting no instructions, or you're not getting an applicator, or whatever. I make sure to prep properly, so clean, clay, polish, panel wipe if you want, and then install the coating. I like to install it thin and even. I work a multi-section at a time to give adequate time for that coating to bond to the surface before I wipe the residue. That's one thing I like with my coating. It is extremely forgiving. It's not finicky with like humidity and temperature and blah, blah, outside, inside, all this other crap. Like, obviously, common sense rules still apply, but it's extremely forgiving. And every time I'm installing the Gloss Boss, which I'll link below, I'm doing 2 to 3 panels at a time before I even level. So what this does is it gives the coating adequate time to bond to the surface. You're not wiping too soon, but it's also super forgiving. Like, honestly, if you coat the whole entire car, which usually takes about an hour with the Gloss Boss, and then you take it outside for a sun check and you see a couple high spots, you could generally just wipe those high spots with a dry towel. Okay. Worst case scenario, you're taking a little bit of the Picture Perfect polish and you're going to touch up those areas by hand to work down that high spot. But it's not tricky at all. I'm not trying to, trip you up. I want you to have a good user experience when it comes to this as well. So, obviously, after you have the car coated, maintaining it with a really good soap, something like the Super Soaper, where you don't have to touch the car as much. Again, the whole premise with the Super Soaper is us, who we like to keep our cars clean. We're taking the time to ceramic coat our car, and then we don't want to scratch our car, but we like to keep our car clean. How do we keep our car clean often, and how do we clean our car often without scratching our car or running the risk of scratching our car, right? And that's where the whole Super Soaper was developed. Especially if you have your car ceramic coated with something like the Gloss Boss, you are really going to be able to do virtually a touch-free wash with a pH neutral solution that isn't degrading the coating, right? And then, of course, I always use a ceramic safe spray like Tough as Shell. It has replaced my detail spray because the reality is that we like to touch our car. We like to wipe our cars down. We're car nuts. We're car freaks. We want the car looking good. We don't want our cars looking bad. So I just replaced my detail spray with Tough as Shell because, again, Tough as Shell and all my products were designed to work extremely easy. And when you use high quality raw materials, there's no reasons that the product doesn't work good and work easily. So where a lot of these brands have gotten in trouble is they try to take shortcuts. Shocker, right? So they put too much oil in their compound. This is the example I always use. They put too much oil in the compounds, which makes it nicer to use because it has quote unquote long work times, but then actually leaves an oily mess. on the surface and is hard to remove, or they use smelly solvents. And so even like 3D1, my beloved 3D1, they use a really smelly solvent. Why? Because it's significantly cheaper. Smelly solvents are significantly cheaper than solvents that don't have a smell, right? And so with the Picture Perfect polish, there is literally no smell in the polish, and that's because I used a solvent that is, 10 times more expensive. Probably not 10. It's probably like 3 times more expensive than a solvent that smells. Why? Because stuff like that is important to me. I don't want my whole shop to smell like solvent. I just don't. I don't want to smell the solvent, right? And so that's a big area with the polish, but same with Toughest Shell. There's tons of things that I can get into about why Toughest Shell is better, but it goes on like a detail spray. And in fact, I'm going to do an upgraded torture test with Toughest Shell just to show how stout that detail, it's not a detail spray, but ceramic spray is. So I like to add Toughest Shell on often, not because I'm worried about the coating failing. It's just because I wipe my car down after I get done washing it. It's just what I do, right? So why not wipe it down with something that is also going to add protection to the ceramic coating, right? So, and I think, where the future for ceramic coatings, I think there's going to be a big move that we're seeing to like the single layer system that we're already seeing. I don't think graphene coatings are the next thing. Maybe self-healing coatings, self-leveling coatings would be great, like something that you could just apply and not have to wipe or level at all. I do think the next wave of coating are going to be, and I would love to see this, a coating that you could apply kind of like an X-coat was, or like a self-leveling clear, where you wouldn't have to do any paint correction. You could just apply the coating. I think that'd be very cool. The issue that I think that they're running into with that is the longevity of it. I think it's hard to get the longevity out of that. But I don't necessarily think that the future is longer lasting coatings. I definitely don't think that. I don't think like a 15-year coating. I don't think anyone cares, honestly, past 5 years. I don't think people can see past 5 years. That's why for my Gloss Boss, I rate it at 3 to 5 years. I think that's a very respectable, relatable time frame. Can it last longer? Yes, probably. But I just don't think it's realistic to say that, right? And so my marketing claims for my brand are about being realistic, transparent, and honest. Like, could it last longer? Maybe, but I just don't feel comfortable saying that, because I don't think, my personal conviction is that the future isn't longer lasting coatings. I think it's smarter coatings that can be maintained, reapplied easily. I'd love to see the smell come out of coatings. That would be very cool too. And I think the self-leveling and self-filling coatings are really the future of the coatings, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I still think we have a little bit of a ways to go before we get there. So again, at the end of the day, ceramic coatings aren't magic. They're just a tool. They're a tool for detailers to make more money, run a more legit business, make life easier. But if someone's promising a 10-year, miracle coating that you never have to touch again, that should kind of be your first red flag, right? And if they're using bro science, and if it seems to make sense, but if you ask, 3 additional questions and it starts to not make sense, or they don't answer those additional questions, that could be a red flag too. So if you want something easy to apply, easy to maintain, I would definitely highly recommend the Gloss Boss and Toughest Shell. It's what I use on my own personal cars. And I think it's just the best ceramic coating and ceramic spray there is out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Hopefully I gave you some real advice and not just fluff. So with that, hope you guys will choose to subscribe. Thanks for supporting the Jimbo's Detailing brand. I really appreciate that. And I'll link everything below. But other than that, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.